got now, ladies and gentlemen, is a guest, or in fact, sorry, we've got two guests who are about to make their way onto the channel. You guys might remember them from the under-20s. I see a Stormers kid on one of them, so be nice is what I could say. But nonetheless, Vik&Wern, ladies and gents. Hello, lads. How are we doing?
Good, man. Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Third live stream. It's currently 5 a.m., but I still, for some reason, have a whole heap of energy. That game, it was not as close as people wanted, but it was still the better game of today, would you say?
Yes, definitely. He wanted it to be close. No, both our teams didn't do well. He's a Western Province Stormers fan. I'm a Sharks fan. The Sharks were horrifically bad today. But, I thought it was the better game than the early game, definitely.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. And it just seemed to be that the Western Province had more fight too than the Sharks did. They kind of seemed to accept the fact that they had lost and they were just not quite getting too much going. The Province, I want to say they probably deserved one or two more tries for how they were playing in that middle patch, but it was just the handling errors, letting the ball slip through the fingers those yellow cards, they were brutal, weren't they?
Yeah, and look, we knew that the Bulls were going to win when you saw the lineups. Because you've got a Zach Berger and you got a Botha Chamberlain. I mean, they are veterans. I mean, Zach Berger's in the Springbok, who was around the Springbok team and stuff like that. So on the 9 and the 10, you've got two seasoned players that are close to Springboks playing 9 and 10, and then people like Stedman Gans in there. There's just too many good. Where Western Province didn't have anybody that actually you won't see any of the Western Province players play in the URC.
Yeah, or not a huge amount anyway. I do think that a couple of those sevens guys, if they weren't playing sevens, maybe. Like I thought Shilton Van Wyk from the back at times did have some impressive moments. Although I think the talk of the town at the moment was that Bulls loose forward trio, particularly Jandre Rudolph and that number 8 jersey.
Our man of the match.
Yeah, he was phenomenal throughout this game. And I think he was backed up well by Pokamela and Nabakaba too. I thought both of those two did quite well, but the breakdown work, a little bit similar to what we saw between the Lions and the Sharks. One side were far superior, and it was just very lopsided in terms of those chances. But having two locks off was certainly something that you don't see too often. The scrum looked utterly confused. The 6 on 8 it was going to be at one point. But I guess as a Stormers supporter, Vern, and a Western Province man, when you look at this game, do you see positives? Do you see a bright future for this Currie Cup, or do you think that there has to be massive changes for it to go right?
I think there has to be massive changes.
Okay. What kind?
I think they'll have to bring maybe some players from the URC down if they want to make the semifinals.
I mean, they almost got relegated last year.
Yeah.
They only came out of the 8 teams in the Currie Cup. You guys finished 7th,
and the Griffins were really so bad that there was no point. But I was disappointed, especially in the pack.
There you go.
Exactly. That's just the last year's one. I didn't mean for it to go right over your face.
Don't worry.
I just thought the Bulls pack was dominant. They were the Moors were dominant. The scrums were dominant.
Look, you got to be fair. You got to be fair. In South African rugby, you have 2 teams that have the financial clout. And that's the Bulls and the Sharks. Even the Sharks are terrible today, but if you look at the UCR teams, I mean, the Bulls is owned by one of the richest men in South Africa, if not one of the richest. Money is not such an issue for them at the moment. I mean, there's no other team in South Africa, or maybe the Sharks could, but Western Province, or let's say the Stormers, they're not bringing in somebody like Andre Pollard to play in their squad. They can't afford that kind of player. And then obviously, if you're bringing in that kind of people on the top, obviously you can push down the others to the bottom. So the Bulls will have a good Currie Cup team. But we watched the game. I know you did the game as well last night between the Pumas and the Griquas, which I thought it was a good game.
Yeah.
But I'm disappointed for the Currie Cup, because Currie Cup used to be obviously our premier competition in South Africa. Did you see the stadium last night in Nelspruit? I mean, you could count the people. There were not. Did you see the stadium today in Ellis Park? Empty. The Stormers will all Western Province, call them Western Province now. They will always have spectators because they're the most watched team in South Africa. Funnily enough, is Western Province, and the Stormers have the most crowds always. But yeah, I just feel for the Currie Cup as a competition. I don't know. I wanted to ask you, how is it in New Zealand? You also have that competition beneath the Super Rugby. Do you also have empty stadiums? How is that competition?
The Bunnings NPC, the last couple of years, I think, has been struggling a little bit. But then the thing is, with Super Rugby supposedly on the rise in terms of viewership and everything like that, I hope that sometimes it will go down to NPC level, because the thing is, if you sit down and you watch an NPC game, it can be extremely entertaining. And some, like, just tremendous rugby is played. It's a little bit similar to here in New Zealand. You know, you could go down on a Saturday and watch a random side and you'd be relatively happy with the way that they play. But I think with the fact that the games are quite restricted, it's a bit similar to the Currie Cup. Like, I think Currie Cup should be free to wear in South Africa, because at the end of the day, that's the kind of almost grassroots competition that made people fall in love with the rugby and the rivalries of the different teams and everything like that. And the NPC is the same. You can only get it on Sky. So that means that anyone who just wants a casual game of rugby to watch on a Saturday, like, you can't do that. You have to pay $50 a month to be able to watch a competition. And some people just don't want to take that amount of financial stress, I guess you could say, by locking it in. Of course, it's different with the All Blacks playing and everything. And I think some people will sign up for those games, but then Sky get a bit strategic and they go with match passes and kind of competition passes. So the NPC, But yeah, it was an intriguing weekend of Currie Cup Rugby, because, like I said, normally they don't actually show these games in New Zealand. We've been missing out for the last couple of years. So because I've been able to cover this one, like, it's different from 2022 when we last did it on the channel. It seems like the vibe has changed a little bit. That it seems like it's almost more so, I don't want to say it's a training run for the URC, but it just seems like there's a bit of something missing in some regards.
Yeah. And I mean, this year it's the competition was cut down. There's only 7 games this year you play, because of the URC and the internationals and everything being packed into it. I just think, you know, too much rugby. I mean, we love rugby and it's good for our channels. We get to do stuff every weekend, stuff like that. But I think it's just too much rugby. Yeah. For the players.
Yeah, and then the Club World Cup, of course, something else that's being brought in. Like, there's going to be so much extra going on, because I haven't actually looked at the exact schedules at this point in time, because I know that in about 42 days is the last regular round of the Currie Cup. And then I think that would be meaning about 49 days, maybe 56 till the final, somewhere around there. I just want to have a quick wee look, as I have got the Springboks schedule somewhere here for their upcoming games. But in the Rugby Championship, does that mean that with the shortened competition, we won't actually get to see the Springboks players in action for the Currie Cup? Because I know a lot of people...
No, there will be no Springbok players in the Currie Cup. Forget it.
And that's the sad thing in a way. But I also do like the fact that the guys who earn the spot throughout the season will be able to play for their title
that's
at the end. But it's that whole balance of viewership as well. You know, a lot more people would be tuning in. But those last games, sorry, Vic, again, you're just unfortunately on the wrong side of the day. But
this is the best. There's quality out there. You know, good-looking people. We got rid of the riffraff. You know, the mongrel is out. It's good. It's good. Keep that up there. I like it.
The early stages of October for when that one's going to be happening for that final Rugby Championship game. So yeah, Currie Cup will be done and dusted.
I hope next week we can maybe see some of the U20 World Cup winners in the Currie Cup.
Yeah, involved.
That's why we actually wanted to watch the Currie Cup, to see some of those U20 players play a bit, which would be excellent.
Yeah, and then you have people. I mean, we said today, look, the Bulls and the Lions put out strong teams today. A lot of players. Some of the players from the Bulls and the Lions, obviously, they're going to be in the URC. Zach Berger, Buta Chamberlain. But I was actually surprised, you know, that the Sharks didn't put out players like Jorn Penix or the 2 Hendricks brothers that haven't played rugby for a hell of a long time. They should give them a little bit of game time before the URC season starts. Give them 1 or 2 games. Maybe they'll play them next week or in a home game or something like that. But you got to give those players also a run out that are not in the Springbok squad, that you can't have it. I mean, the Hendricks brothers are going to have something. If they don't play any of the Currie Cup games till the first URC game, they're going to have 3.5 months off.
Yeah. And that's just like, that's the thing. Of course, we want to see these guys playing rugby, but that type of extended layoff can do absolute shocking things to your form. But that's the thing. The Sharks, they were probably the most surprising lineup of the weekend, I would say, in terms of the amount of debutants. And maybe it was just to get those guys a bit of a run round early because, of course, so many injuries already in this Currie Cup competition. We did see Esterhazen go down for the Lions with what looks like it's going to be a severe one. But maybe that was just something from the Sharks to say, we're a good enough side that if this game goes astray, like at least we've given those guys a chance early, something like that. But it's a weird tactic. Surely you want to beat the Lions at Ellis Park, seeing as you beat them in the final last year, right? But then they lost the first game up against them last year too.
And I think you can't look. Somebody's going to have 4 home games and somebody's only going to have 3 home games. I think a lot of the teams are probably going, look, we've got to try to win our home games. You know, I think because there's only 7 games, I think you get into the top 4 if you win. If you win 4 or 5 games, you're definitely in the top 4. Yeah. And we'll see tomorrow. I'm going to be surprised. Well, surprised. I'm looking forward to seeing the Cheetahs, because I think the Cheetahs, this is a competition the Cheetahs would try to win. You know, that's their competition, and then all they have is left is the what's his name, the Challenge Cup. Then that's also Investec and Challenge Cup, even more rugby to be played. Rugby's getting like football. I mean, it's like 12 months in the year. It's just rugby now.
Because the Premier League, they are just about back again, aren't they? And they only just finished a few weeks ago. And the top 14's the same. They are pretty much this July internationals. As much as people gave the French side stick that they were selected for the All Blacks tour, like you look and the top 14's back in I think it's 3 or 4 weeks' time.
Exactly.
And they're back into it again. So that's the only break these guys actually get throughout the whole year. Yeah. So, plenty of rugby still on, of course. And you guys, of course, will be covering a lot of it on your channel too. Anyone who doesn't know who these two fellas are, this is Vic and this is Wern. Vic is the one on the right as you see them, and Wern is the one on the left in the Stormers kit, but don't bring it up. But they have got a YouTube channel as well. Be sure to check it out as they do a daily sports show about what is happening around the world. You guys would have been absolutely stacked in terms of the amount of sports you've had to cover recently. We got the golf going on. Do you do golf? I don't think you do golf, do you?
Well, in that morning show, it's golf, it's rugby, it's cricket, it's sumo. It's basically everything that, if somebody writes us on the fans, can you do this tomorrow? We'll add it in, but all the North American sports, obviously football, rugby's in there. Yeah, we just have a lot of fun in the mornings. We don't take the show too seriously because we got some crazy people in the chats and stuff. We just have a lot of fun and enjoy the sports and stuff like that. A lot of banter going on. But before we go, because I'm going for a dinner date today, I'm looking forward to that. I wanted to ask you, the Wallabies against the Lions.
Yes.
We've got to get into that for a second.
I really wanted it to be 1-1. I'll be honest. I wanted to see the decider. I do think that the Wallabies needed it to be 1-1 because now, I don't know what Wallabies team we're going to see in the third test, whether or not they're going to be this all-new motivated side again or whether that game there was their big chance. Because, after that, it doesn't get easier. You head to South Africa, you play the world champs twice in the rugby championship. So, yeah.
Good. I like what I saw. I do believe next week the Lions squad will also be totally changed.
Yeah.
I think now they can. That hasn't got a look in. He'll play a lot of the guys that were brought in as reserves, especially the guys that were taken off Scotland. I think they'll all play next week. He'll give them a run out, But I was impressed. I was actually quite impressed with the way Australia turned up today. I thought they played very well.
They actually showed a little bit of Australia of old throughout that game. But the problem was, as well as they were playing, when I looked at it after the game as well and, looking at the timeline and everything, really it was that 10 minutes where they did very well. But then outside of that, they actually didn't score a lot of points.
That was from the 25th minute to the 35th minute. That was where they were dominant. But, I mean, I was we were hammering the coach during the week because we thought McDermott should have started today. But I got to say, Gordon played very well today. He played very well. So nothing. But the big change came with Valentini and with Skelton. That
Unbelievable.
And I'm telling you now, maybe the coach won't admit it, but he saw what the island boys there, the Pacific and First Nation team did with the brutality, and he brought that brutality into the Australian team today, and that helped them out. Porecki that came, that was very good. That even Langy Gleeson when he came off the bench, that helped the Australians, and they need to build on that because I think their backline is phenomenal. I think they've got a good talent there, but I think if they want to be relevant in the next 2 years, building up to the World Cup, it's that pack that they need to build up.
Yeah, and I think the biggest shock was that Valentini sub at halftime. I don't know whether or not that was tactical or whether there was some sort of injury there, but for me, that just seemed to change the momentum a little bit, definitely after you've just conceded 2 quick tries. Like, you need those physical guys still out there. And Skelton, maybe he came off a few minutes earlier than people would have liked, but he did put in quite a shift before having to make his way off. But yeah, the Lions... He's a big bloke. He's big. And then you look at him. Like, there was that time where he was fighting with both of the Irish props with one hand, and then he had a Toje out the side with the other hand.
He's just an animal, man. He looked like he was enjoying himself, pushing them around and stuff like that. And was like, and he's just smiling at them. It was like, what the hell do you think you're going to do against me? I mean, he's kind of like he's like the Ibn Etzebeth of Australia,
Imagine those two going head-to-head in July, or in fact, in August. That would be a bit brutal, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But the funniest thing, I think, in that whole altercation was the fact that afterwards he was like to the ref, "Oh, sorry, it's quite loud. I didn't hear you." He fully heard the ref for that one, but he just wanted to get those little sneaky shots in. But yeah, of course, a sneaky shot or a legal shot was the talk of the town for the final moment of that game. That wasn't how anyone wanted to see that game end, was it? In terms of a controversial 50-50 that honestly both sides can feel, if they were given or not given, they'd feel hard done by.
I mean, look, I think everybody that was hoping for it to tie up, I said, oh, penalty, no try straight away. But yeah, like you said, it's a toss-up. It's a 50-50. I mean, you give it. Look, if it was the other way around, and he didn't give it, and the Aussies would have scored the try, and he didn't give it, all Aussies would have been upset. It's one of those where you can say, look, did he get it wrong or did he get it right? It is what it is. And Australia had the opportunities early in the game where they were up there, and those last 5 minutes before halftime, that cost them the game. The last 5 minutes before halftime, it wasn't that last ditch try that cost them So
and also those couple minutes before as well, Tom Lynagh missing touch. I think that was a brutal one for Australia as well, because, they could have been down at halfway and then you work your way towards getting a 3 at some point or perhaps a try. But yeah, those little moments for the Aussies, and also just getting 3 points throughout the last about 45 minutes of the game. I think that was the big difference. And the Lions, to their credit, for a side that normally throughout the other matches, their trend has been do well first half, foot off the gas, little bit more, I guess, relying on that scoreboard that they have in the second. But they actually showed that they have a lot of grit coming from behind in that game, which is something they didn't have to show throughout those other games. So I feel like they probably learn a lot from this game too. They were possibly a little bit more surprised with what Australia threw out there than some. But I think third test, I know that, like, let's say, for instance, that second match, the Lions, because of how they come back, they deserve to win that game. But everyone wanted the decider.
Of course you wanted it. It makes it, next week is kind of becomes a friendly kind of game.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be a lot of change and stuff like that. But, there's one guy that really annoyed me in that Lions test. I was annoyed. Before the game, they brought this beautiful interview with Moro Itoje, right? Talked well, everything. He said everything right, beautiful. He's a little whiny little baby here. Ref, they started. I was like, what are you, a third grade or what? No, they pushed us first and stuff like that. I'm like, come on, man. That let me down. I mean, I can't see the captain of New Zealand. Well, they started first or something like that. Nah, come on. I was a little bit annoyed at that, but look, maybe just because I just wanted the Aussies to win so badly. I wanted a special game next weekend, and yes, we'll cover the game, but it's not going to be that
special.
It's not going to have that fire next week.
Well, that's the thing. The Australians have to be a little bit strategic about who they use here because they can't afford a big player going down with an injury before the Rugby Championship. So I think that, if you're looking at someone like a James O'Connor, I mentioned about it before the match because someone asked, would they play him in match number 3? And I said, if it's 1-1, I don't think they will. But if it's 2-0, they probably will give him the chance because Tom Lynagh, he's had a couple shaky moments, but overall I feel like he's not a bad young fly half option for them while Noah Lolesio is out of the running. And he actually built that chemistry with Jake Gordon too. But yeah, Lolesio's injury up against Fiji was just the worst possible timing for him. But then saying that, he's going overseas too, isn't he? So he can't be the guy that they build their team around now, but Lynagh could be. Or perhaps Donaldson, if he's given that chance. But yeah, less rugby than the last few weekends. I'm sure you guys have enjoyed the slightly breezier type of feel to it. But Currie Cup still, of course, in action. Another game tomorrow. Are you guys covering it?
We're covering that one. We said, to be honest, we said we'll do every game on the first weekend and then kind of assess where we're going to go. Because next week, for me, I'm moving house next week. So Vern's going to do a lot of the stuff during the week. So, we'll just see what we're going to do. But, there's good games next week because the big four in the Currie Cup kind of still play against each other next week.
Yeah.
And what is it? I think Western Province traveled to the Lions, and the Bulls and the Sharks play. So, we'll see what we'll do. We'll see what we'll do. But we're going to enjoy it. Look, we're going to have a little bit of a break because all of a sudden that URC is going to start. Then you're going to have at the same time the top 14 and all of a sudden the Super Rugby. The worst time is when it's Super Rugby and the URC because then we have like 8 or 9 games, one after the other. That kind of gets to you, that doing live streams for like almost 24 hours nonstop. But it's rugby and we enjoy it,
Absolutely. And yeah, like you said, August's going to be busy with the Rugby Championship, the Pacific Nations Cup also coming in for that rugby too. But we will be covering it on both channels, of course, ladies and gents. So be sure to stick around. Also be sure to check out Vik&Wern. Like I mentioned, they have got that daily sports show, which I have been tuning into too, because otherwise I have no idea what's happening outside of the world of rugby. But thank you all very much for tuning in. If you did enjoy, of course, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you all for the next one.